Okay, in theory, we are supposed to be out there. So, if you are around right now and we are looking for you, so hang on, checking some things in the audio and the visual and all that good stuff. So, hopefully, we are going to be.
Hello, folks.
Whoop.
My name is Brian.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Whoa, where'd you go? Where did you go? Hang on. I just love when shows starts like this. La da 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 da. Okay, sorry about this, folks. Apologize in advance if you're watching this right now. Yes, we are having a boomer moment. So give me just a second here. Let me figure out what's going on. Da 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 da. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Where are you at? Da 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 da. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Where are you at? Okay, I know YouTube's working because I just heard myself. Silly old man that I am. Okay, that's working. Somebody tell me what's going on with Rumble. If you're out there in Rumble, whoop, wait a minute. Robert Lowry, you're out there. Yes, I know that our friend. Oh, no, we're now on Rumble apparently. All right, hot dog. This is great. Yeah, Boomercast IRL is right. Oh my goodness. Okay. Since it is now official. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Saturday Morning Brunch. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. We are here this morning gathering around the proverbial table on our front porch to discuss news items from the week. We are going to have some takes on it. We're going to have a few laughs about it. We are going to, share stories. We're going to basically have some fun this fine Saturday morning. And to Mr. Robert Lowry, I raise a cup in your general direction, sir, of tea. Nothing more than tea. And no, it's not Long Island iced tea, but we're glad to have you, my brother. Some people are all about coffee, and, I get it. Me, I just never could acquire the taste. Never, ever could acquire the taste for coffee. For those of you who drink it, God love you, happy for you, but for me, not so much. Couldn't get into it. So, by way of introductions again, my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. I live in West Virginia. And I might wind up doxing myself unintentionally before it's all over with, but I'm not going to do it deliberately. I've lived here most, if not all, of my life. I am now really 2 months into this strange social media content creation world that I find myself. And I also find that I've got some things to say. And it seems like videos, you can put them out left and right till the blessed day long, but sometimes you just got to go live. And this is one of those moments, among others. So what do I envision Front Porch Brunch to be? Well, I mentioned this last week on the show, and I still stand by what I'm about to say. There you are out there in the world. You're trying to, make it through your week. You're trying to make it through your day. You got to answer to the boss. You got to answer to the boss you're married to, if you're married. You got to answer to the significant other, if you got a significant other. If you got kids, you got to do everything for the kids, and I get that. That's important. So you got to answer to a lot of different people. And in the middle of all that, you've got to find a way to make a living. So now you're making a living, and you're working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. You are about to kill yourself. You are running hither and yon. You didn't know you could get fancy phrases like that on this show, did you? You're running around all over the place. You don't have the time to catch up on the news. That is where I come in. I am all about the news. I am all about trying to stay up on as much as I can with the bandwidth I've got to be able to bring it to you, and we all just sort of talk about it. We're going to talk about some things cultural, we're going to talk about some things political, and we're going to try to have a whole lot of fun doing it, or I'm going to try and make it fun anyway. So that's the plan, the glorious plan of this fine little live stream. I see there's some folks in the room already. Robert, I'm glad to hear. Let's see if there's anybody over on Rumble at this point. If you're out there on Rumble watching this little live stream, please do me a favor and give me a comment in chat. Would love to hear from you, which, by the way, I'm not necessarily looking for sound checks on this, but if you're out there, say hello. Let's find out who you are. Let's talk to each other. Robert and I have been associating now for a little while, and glad to have him in my circle of friends. And but yeah, if you're out there, drop a comment and chat on either place. Let's find out who you are and what you're all about, and see what you got to say for yourself. So, with that, I raise a cup to everybody who is watching this now or will be watching this in the going forward for the next couple of hours. We're glad to have you. Welcome to the Electronic Front Porch. And that tea's getting better the cooler it's getting. Okay. I said we're going to talk about some things cultural and talk about some things political. So let's get into the cultural first. And I want to start off this morning by giving an update about everything that is going on with the whole Bud Light controversy. Now, if you're out there and watching this and you don't know what's going on, basically it gets down to this. Bud Light entered into some kind of a marketing agreement with TikTok star and transgender activist Dylan Mulvaney to advertise their beer. They basically ran one, maybe two different videos. Okay. Now, the backlash off of that was just enormous. And it's still going on. This started back at the beginning of April. And it's still going on right now. I mean, you got people who are absolutely furious with Anheuser-Busch. I mean, to the point that you got, very prominent country musicians who are like, we're not even going to have this stuff in our hospitality suites. Kid Rock is out there taking rifles and blowing the stuff up, among other gestures he's making about this, that, and the other toward Anheuser-Busch, telling them where they can go and how fast they can get there. So, the thing that I've been wondering for the past, I guess, couple of weeks now, is what kind of effect is this going to have on Anheuser-Busch's sales? Or will there be repercussions from this? Well, the news is starting to come in, but before we even get to that part, I'm going to tie in something, because as you might expect in America today, since everything is political, now beer drinking is political. So we're going to go to our first article. Take a look at this. This comes from Outkick.com. Ron DeSantis team drags Bud Light, mocks transgender athletes with new ad. Now, this ad's kind of funny, so I'm going to play this. This is just... You remember back in the day when Budweiser ran the Real Men of Genius ads? Okay, this runs about 34 seconds, and I'm going to play it because this is just too funny. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen it, enjoy.
Team DeSantis presents Real Men of Women's Sports. Today we recognize the men who've hacked the system. Hacked the system! Once mediocre in the men's division, now cream of the crop in the women's. From mediocre to champion! You couldn't cut it with the boys, so you pushed women off the podium. Real men still first place. Because without you, sports would be fair. Without you, women's sports would be for, well, women.
Hey, Charlie Gunner, how you doing? I saw you drop in chat. Brother, good morning to you. And boy, did you pick a time to come into this thing. Right in the middle of that parody commercial from the DeSantis people. But anyway, Charlie Gunner, welcome to the chat. Hey, while you're out there, say hello to Robert Lowry. He's out there in chat with you there on the YouTube side. Give a shout out to each other. That's one thing here on the front porch. We're going to encourage you to actually say hello to each other and actually kind of fellowship. So yeah, So DeSantis has finally decided to get into this thing. Now, I'm not saying that in a pejorative about DeSantis, but I just think that whole ad's funny. Now, the reason that the Gov has decided to get into this thing is, well, he's decided to give a take on the whole Bud Light Dylan Mulvaney controversy. So we'll go to our next little snippet right here. But there is a certain amount of irony in what he said. So I'll show you this. This comes from a tweet from a gentleman named Arthur Schwartz. Benny Johnson just pushed Ron DeSantis to say he prefers Guinness over Bud Light, which, by the way, Guinness is not bad. to say he prefers Guinness over Bud Light, the makers of Guinness, one of the most aggressive pushers of trans ideology in the world, recently ran this ad highlighting a transgender grandfather teaching his grandson how to put on makeup. Now, I'm not going to play the clip. It runs like 3 minutes. But I have to say that Mr. Schwartz there does point out a certain amount of irony in that, Guinness ran this ad, and it very clearly showed this grandfather teaching his grandson, how to put on makeup. So if Ron DeSantis knew about that, would he still be drinking Guinness? It do make you wonder. So yeah, I'd find that could be kind of funny. Now, DeSantis is not the only one weighing in on this. Now, every Republican politician has pretty much weighed in on this whole Bud Light advertising campaign, with one exception, and that's Donald Trump. Now, if he has said something, I haven't heard about it. We'll put it that way, okay? But his son weighed in on it, much to his, I think, personal chagrin. I'm going to show you an article from Fox News. And let me back this thing up a little bit. Here we go. Take a look at this. Donald Trump Jr. opposes Bud Light boycott, citing company's donations to Republicans. Donald Trump Jr. says he did not want to hurt Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light over someone in a marketing campaign getting too political. And we read a little further into this article. He says, quote, "So here's the deal. Anheuser-Busch totally shit the bed with this Dylan Mulvaney thing. I'm not, though, for destroying an iconic company for something like this. The beer company has faced intense criticism in recent weeks following the announcement it was partnering with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. Quote, when I actually look into it, I'm not going to blame the whole company for the inaction or the stupidity of someone in the marketing campaign that got woke as hell. Trump cited Anheuser-Busch's record of donating slightly more to conservative politicians than liberal ones as reason for keep buying their beer. The company itself does not participate in the same leftist nonsense as other big conglomerates," Trump Jr. said. "Frankly, they don't participate in the same woke garbage that other people in the beer industry actually do, who are significantly worse offenders when I looked into it. But if they do this again, then it's on them, then screw them." Okay, I've got some takes on this, as you might expect. Okay, by way of reported fact, Anheuser-Busch is claiming that senior executives were not aware that this marketing agreement had been entered into between Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney. And I can sort of see that. I can see both sides of it. My personal instinct is there's just no way in the world that senior executives at Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch did not know that this marketing agreement was in place. Now, they may not have known everything about Dylan Mulvaney, but there's no way they couldn't have known this. Now, on the other hand, you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar corporation, which actually isn't even American-owned anymore. It's owned by a company over in Belgium. And yeah, Robert's got a really good point. Trump Jr. must be an investor because his take is cucked. Well, you may be right. And then you got Charlie's got, well, we're not sure why Don Jr. said that, unaware of the company's location. I think not. Well, good points, fellas. Really good points. So I could see both sides of it. I can see where the company's claiming they didn't know. On the other hand, I have a hard time believing that they didn't know either. Now, to Trump Jr.'s point, okay. Yeah, he's got a valid critique, and that is, maybe they didn't know. I think Don Jr. would have been better off not saying anything at all about it. But he is right about one thing, and I'm not going to pull it up right now, but if you go back and look at 2022 as far as political donations, Anheuser-Busch donated more to Republicans than they did to Democrats. I mean, not only did they donate to national Republican organizations, they donated to the Missouri Republican Party, the Louisiana Republican Party, different PACs, etc. So, yeah, in one sense, Donald Trump Jr. is right. But on the other hand, I think he would have better started to keep his mouth shut. Because there's sometimes, it's one thing to have a take. It's another thing altogether to have to say it. So everybody sort of more or less weighed in on this. Now, oh, wait, there's one more. And I got to play this. I got to play this one. This thing has even gotten all the way up to the White House. The press secretary, or propaganda artist, depending on how you want to look at her, was asked about this. So I'm going to play her clip. You got to hear this. Okay? So I'm going to play the question and the answer through. So hang on here just 1 second. And here we go.
The transgender actor and influencer Dylan Mulvaney has been the target of a barrage of attacks from anti-trans individuals online after she did an ad with Bud Light a couple of weeks ago. She's someone who has been here to the White House. She interviewed the president last year. He had a lot of warm words for her. Has anyone here at the White House reached out to her since she became the target of these attacks?
So I don't have any calls to review at this time, and I don't have anything to say specifically about this report, but what I can say, when a transgender American posts a video about a brand of beer they enjoy, and it leads to bomb threats.
Hold it right there. What? Whoa, hold it. Wait a minute. Has anybody heard about this? Has anybody heard about either Dylan Mulvaney or I think maybe I've heard something distantly. I'm going to play that back for a second. I got to hear this again. Make sure I'm hearing this right. Hang on.
And it leads to bomb threats.
Wait a minute.
It's clear a video about a brand of beer they enjoy, and it leads to bomb threats. It's clear that level of violence and vitriol against transgender Americans has to stop. And the president has been very clear. I just laid this out. The administration is going to do everything that they can to protect LGBTQI plus people who are under attack, and that's what we've been seeing.
Oh God, this woman! I swear. When I think of the long history of press secretaries that have come and gone through the White House, and then I watch her, oh, it's just an indication of how far we've fallen as a country. It's just, all right. The issue is not Dylan Mulvaney per se. Okay, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If Anheuser-Busch wants to offer Dylan Mulvaney the money to sponsor product their beer, and Dylan Mulvaney wants to enter into the contract, fine. It's a free country. You can do it. The complaint that I think a lot of Americans have toward Anheuser-Busch is not with Dylan Mulvaney per se. It's with Anheuser-Busch, who up to now, most people in America would say is a company that's very patriotic, tries to reflect their values, yada, 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 and more or less has avoided the whole woke SJW controversies that other companies and corporations have not only walked into, they have willingly engaged in. So now the American people are saying, no, we don't want this shoved down our throat. If Dylan Mulvaney wants to dress up like a woman, that's Dylan Mulvaney's business. But don't do that and then tie it to a beverage that we enjoy partaking in. You know? But this whole thing of, oh, this is violence against transgender people. Oh, give me a break, lady. Give me a freaking break. I mean, just the level of sloughing to the bottom that this administration will do, or just progressive liberal Democrats in general, just absolutely makes me want to go, ah! Absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, this is the political side of what's going on this cultural issue. Because in America anymore, daggone it, you can't have culture and politics not wind up mixing with each other, unfortunately. Now, this gets to a very interesting question. Has this had any effect on Bud Light's sales? Well, depends on who you ask, but there is some evidence that's starting to come in. I'm going to show you a headline from a website called brewbound.com. Apparently they cover news, events, etc. related to the beer industry. So take a look at this. Bud Light off-premise sales and volume decline in first week of boycott. Impact is, quote, rough, but not catastrophic. We read a little further into this article. Sales data is now out showing the first week of the conservative-led See, it's not conservative-led. It's not This is not led by conservatives, per se. But I'll get back to that in a minute. Boycott of Anheuser-Busch's InBev Bud Light brand following the world's largest beer maker's March Madness activation with Dylan Mulvaney, an influencer who documents her life as a transgender woman. It's not a her, it's a him, but I digress. According to off-premise data from market research firm NIQ, formerly Nielsen IQ, for the week ending April the 8th, packages of Bud Light showed accelerating sales and share declines, while Molson Coors competing light lager brands Coors Light and Miller Lite showed a notable uptick in sales and share per Dave Williams of Bump Williams Consulting. Quote, that being said, while the increased declines for Bud Light were apparent, there were also not completely earth-shattering in terms of magnitude, Williams wrote. Now, this will be interesting to monitor over the upcoming weeks to see if the slide continues, but for now, it looks to be rough but not catastrophic. Well, see, everybody kept saying, oh, the share price, they've got their market value back. Well, yeah, you're right. They got their market value back, by and large. But that's not the be-all and end-all. It's not the telltale sign of whether or not what is happening is having an effect. Now, as you heard me say, I disagree with the characterization that this is conservative-led. I'm not buying it. This goes beyond conservative, liberal, libertarian, whatever. This is just visceral gut reaction to the American people. Okay, now, there are people who are conservative who are making their voices known on this. I'm not going to dispute that at all. But I really disagree with the statement that this is a conservative-led boycott. No, this is natural. I mean, how many videos have y'all seen out there, either on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or wherever you go on social media, and people are just absolutely going to the refrigerators, pulling out every can of Bud Light and tossing them in the trash? Don't tell me this is conservative-led. This is very organic. This is very grassroots what's happening here. Now, I do agree with this Williams fellow from his consulting firm. This is 1 week's worth of data. This is April the 1st through April the 8th. Let's just see in the coming 2 weeks' worth of data if this trend continues. And if it does, I think we've got ourselves a very legitimate impact on Anheuser-Busch. Now, there is one other thing, and this came out late yesterday. I've said for maybe about a week or so that Anheuser-Busch was trying to ride out the storm. Well, they've apparently not just decided to ride out the storm. They're jettisoning people overboard that they don't want riding out the storm with them. Take a look at this. Bud Light's marketing leadership undergoes shakeup after Dylan Mulvaney controversy. Alyssa Heinerschneid, who has led the brand since June, takes leave of absence and is replaced by Budweiser Global Marketing VP Todd Allen. This is from a website called adage.com. And we read thereof. Anheuser-Busch's InBev has changed marketing leadership for Bud Light in the wake of the controversy over the brand sending a can to transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney with their face on it. Alyssa Heinerschneid, marketing vice president for this brand since June 2022, has taken a leave of absence, the brewer confirmed, and will be replaced by Todd Allen, who was most recently Global Marketing VP for Budweiser. Heiner Schneid did not immediately respond to an email requesting comment. This is delicious. This is absolutely delicious. Leave of absence, my foot. What do you want to bet that somewhere in about, I don't know, give it a couple of months, what do you want to bet she quietly tenders her resignation? If she hasn't done it already, and Budweiser's just not saying anything about it. This is, this is the first time in a long time that I've seen something like this go down. Now, what I mean is this. Corporations in America, for whatever reason, have been, engaging in woke and more woke and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And there's really honestly been no blowback on them, in spite of the fact that many people thought it would happen. But finally, on this one product, this one brand, this one corporation, the American people, or a significantly large portion of them, are saying, no, stop it. It's having an effect, and you are absolutely seeing it in their sales, and now it's reached the point Anheuser-Busch is like, okay, you thought this was such a real good idea, you've gotten our bleep in the ringer, okay, let's just see how you like being on a leave of absence. Get out of here. Get out of here. Charlie Gunner says, the majority of Dylan Mulvaney fan base is younger than 21 from what I hear, so Anheuser-Busch is promoting their product to children and ignoring their customers. That's a good point. That's a really good point. Who did Anheuser-Busch or who did Bud Light think they were trying to reach with this? Now, everybody is more or less at this point seeing the video where saying, well, we've got to reach out to a younger demographic. And I'm like, younger than what? Most of the people drinking Bud Light are probably between the ages of 20, at least 21 and 35. So who are you trying to reach out to with this? So yeah, Charlie, you got a real good point there, my man. Robert's like, very bad marketing. Like, boy, you ain't kidding. You ain't kidding. It's no wonder they showed this girl the door temporarily, if you are to believe reports, that she's on a leave of absence. I'm telling you, folks, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to shock me if in like 1 or 2 months that we find out she's tendered her resignation to Anheuser-Busch. It really wouldn't. Just amazing. I can't believe the tone deafness of a company like Anheuser-Busch doing something like this. Now, yes, they're owned by a company outside the United States, so there's probably certain sensibilities that come into play here, European sensibilities. I get that. But for a brand like Bud Light that's been around decades, has had some of the most successful and, might I add, funniest marketing campaigns coming or going, and then they laid an egg and did something like this, unbefrickin-leavable. Unbelievable. So anyway, that's what's going on with the latest updates on our friends at Anheuser-Busch and their brand Bud Light and everything that goes with it. So, we're sort of I guess about the bottom of the hour mark. If you're out there either on Rumble, YouTube, drop a comment in chat, say hello to each other. We got two very fine gentlemen who are here already. They're saying hello to each other. We're glad to have them. Robert and Charlie, we're glad you're out there. Hey, I tell you what. If you got some friends right now, and maybe you've already done it and I just don't know it, but if you got some friends right now that you think would enjoy this, send out a tweet, send out a text, say, hey, you got to hear this idiot. Get over here. This guy's a moron. But you want some fun on Saturday morning. Come on over, watch this thing. This is just hysterical. So yeah, send out the word. I'll do my best to spread this thing around. But yeah, by all means, spread it around. We have a comment. We have a comment from. Oh, we've got some folks watching on Rumble. Good morning to you, rumbly people. Good morning to you, rumbly people. Redwave46, the fact that we have an option to say no is something that we should be grateful. Team America. Damn straight. Damn straight. And Redwave and you and everybody else watching on Rumble right now, we're glad to have you. Hey, do me some favors before we go on to our next topic. Number one, drop a comment in chat, particularly y'all on the Rumble side. Y'all are just some of the most shy and polite people I've ever seen in chat. Okay, but do me a favor. If y'all are out there on Rumble, just kind of say, hey, my name is, we're not going to embarrass you. We're not going to make fun of you. We're glad you're here. I was telling Robert and Charlie, they're over on the YouTube side of this, and I was telling them, I was like, say hello to each other. Let's build a neat, fun little community here. I don't expect everybody to agree on everything, but, that's all right. You don't expect to agree with me on everything. So, and vice versa. But let's say hello to each other. Let's tell each other we love each other. And absolutely, let's spend some time together and have some fun. Let's talk about the news. So, if you're on YouTube, say hello, Rumbleites. Yeah, well, okay, yeah, Robert, Rumbleites. Look, as I jokingly tell people all the time, I am a Gen Xer with boomer tendencies. I don't know what the terminology is, so I'm making this stuff up as I go along. Okay, Rumbleites. So Rumbleites, Rumblers, Rumblees, Rumble people. I don't know what you call yourselves, but we're glad to have you. We're up to 10 now. Whoa, it just climbed to 11. Holy cow. This is cool. Hey, welcome to Front Porch Brunch. We're glad to have you. And now, Robert, this is why, technology is an amazing thing. Robert, he's just jumping around all over the place. He's over on YouTube. He's over on Rumble. He's Mr. Worldwide. That's all we can say about it. So we're having some fun this morning. We're glad to have you. And, feel free to chime in with comments. I will do my best to keep an eye on both places. So this is going to be fun for everybody. We're going to do our best to. So we've been talking so far, for those of you who you maybe got here a little bit late, we've been talking about this whole Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light controversy, or at least the updates on it. And we're going to switch gears for a second. And we're going to pop into another subject that's a little more serious. And something that definitely, I think, needs to be addressed. A few weeks ago, you all will remember a very tragic event that happened in Nashville, Tennessee. The Christian school shooting, where 3 beautiful young children lost their lives and 3 adults were killed by a trans activist. Now, I did a video on it, and just to refresh everyone's memory, not per se just about the video, but the event in general, the shooter found a side door, shot through the glass, started walking through the building with a rifle and a pistol, and came upon these 6 individuals and killed them in cold blood. Metro Nashville Police Department scrambled officers to the scene, and inside of 10 minutes being in the building, they put this person down. And it's truly, truly tragic on so many different levels. Now, one of the interesting facts related to the shooter is the fact that they had written a manifesto. And the reason that I can say that with confidence is that was reported by the Metro Nashville Police Department. They had done a search of the shooter's home. The shooter was living with their parents at the time. I don't think, from all indications, the parents had any idea that their child had reached the place mentally and reached the place physically that they were preparing to do what they had done. But Metro Nashville Police Department had found various documents written by the shooter themselves. And within the first, call it 24 to 48 hours, the police department in Nashville had made the decision they would not release these documents. Now, my take on it at the time was very simple. I was willing to give Nashville police a little bit of grace on this one, and I'll tell you why. My take on it was this. If there was something in those documents that could be jeopardized by their release, in other words, let's say that the shooter mentions someone who turns out to be an accomplice, okay? Or there are other plans for other events that the shooter was planning to perpetrate that would have been revealed. In other words, if there were something in those documents that in releasing them would jeopardize the police department's investigation, okay, I could understand that. However, it's now several weeks past that event, and take a look at this. This is from the Epoch Times. And the headline reads, Nashville official says school shooter's manifesto is, quote, astronomically dangerous. Officials have identified the suspect in Monday's Nashville school shooting. I will not mention their name, and I've got a particular reason for that, and I'll explain why here in a minute. And the event took place on March 28th, so we're almost a full month past when this went down. Articles written by Jack Phillips, and he says, federal officials are delaying the release of a manifesto written by who killed 6 people in Nashville Christian School, according to local officials, with one calling it, quote, astronomically dangerous. U.S. Representative Tim Burchett told the New York Post this week that the FBI is currently behind the delay. He said that the documents should be made public for grieving family members and for family members of Congress. Hale, was born female, used he, him pronouns, and police officials previously told a news conference that she identified as transgender. Later, the Nashville police chief, John Drake, said the shooter suffered from mental health issues and was under the care of a doctor, while her parents did not know she had procured these firearms. Well, that's what I thought. I thought my memory was right on that one. The shooter's notes, quote, could maybe tell us a little bit about what was going on inside their head, Burchett told the newspaper. I think that would answer a lot of questions. 20 journals, 5 laptops, a suicide note, and other materials written by the shooter were taken from the house where she lived with her parents, according to a search warrant in the case. What I was told, the manifesto was a blueprint on total destruction, and it was so detailed at the level of what she had planned. That document in the wrong person's hands would be astronomically dangerous. Okay. I've got some thoughts on this, as you might expect. All right. As I said a moment ago, if it is an issue that the police department in Nashville believes that their investigation would be compromised because of the fact that there might be an accomplice's name, that there might be other events that could still yet happen, even though the shooter is dead, particularly if there's more than one person involved in this. Okay, that I get. That should not be released because you're going to jeopardize the investigation. I could take it even one step further and say, all right, if you think that there's a copycat out there that if they heard these plans, be like, hey, y'all, this sounds like a real good idea, I might understand that too. That said, however, I'm sorry. The public has a right to know. I think there was an old Supreme Court justice who came up with the expression, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And if we are going to get to the place in this country that we start to bind the wounds and we start to heal some of the pain that we are going through as a nation, we've got to have an honest discussion. We can't do that absent the facts. I'm sorry. I think the public has every right to know what's in those journals, what was on those laptops. I think we need to see, what was this person planning? I think we need to know, what was this person's state of mind? And I've got a whole bunch of questions that I'd love to have answered about this. I really would. As I understand it, the shooter was under the care of a physician, possibly a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Okay, what were they being treated for? Were they being prescribed any drugs? If so, what were these drugs? And if these drugs are used in combination with something else, can they cause, psychological damage and start putting somebody in a mood or a frame of mind that they could do violence? I'm sorry. I think these are all very legitimate questions. And I respect the family of the shooter because they're grieving too. They've lost a child. And I don't, I'm not going to, absent knowing more facts than what I do, I'm not going to fault them or blame them at this point. Those 6 individuals who were shot and killed at that Nashville Christian school, their families, I can't even begin to imagine the grief that they feel. On the other hand, the parents of this shooter are feeling just as much grief for different reasons. So I respect what they're going through, but we need to know. We need to know what was in those journals. We, the American people, have every right to know what's in those journals. Because I'm sorry, more and more and more, there is a lot of violence coming out of the transgender community toward everybody else in the country. Now, I'm not saying every transgendered person is violent, so don't trip out on me here, okay? But there is a lot. It's beyond the question of, marching in parades or marching in protest or, making your voice heard or whatever else. We're talking about people are picking up guns and they're starting to kill people. I think we, the American people, have every right to know what was in those journals. We really do. Robert says, they apparently found many electronic devices, including laptops and multiple cell phones. Yep. And that sort of gets to something else. And I'll ask the question again. Did this shooter have accomplices? And like I said, if the police department feels that's the case, and they think that releasing those documents somehow jeopardizes a further investigation into those accomplices, okay, I'll give them some grace. But if this person acted alone, and the police are pretty sure of that, release it. Now, if the feds, and I do have a question here, if the feds are the ones that are withholding the release of these documents, why? Is it a purely law enforcement reason, or is there an ideological reason? Yeah, I went there. I absolutely went there. Because you can't tell me, unfortunately anymore, that ideology does and does not have something to do with the enforcement of the law and the prosecution thereof. Oh, you're treading on dangerous ground, Front Porch. Hey, can we not say it? Should we not be allowed to say it? Can we not ask these questions? I think we should. I really do. Oh, and by the way, lest you think I'm being a little extreme when I say there's violence coming out of the transgender community, I got one more headline for you related to all this. Check this out. This came out of the UK Daily Mail a day or so ago. No, I'm sorry, about 5 days ago now. Transgender teachers removed from school after threatening to, quote, shoot some students days after seeing their social media post discussing her sexual orientation. Police removed 3 firearms and ammunition from their home. And I got to give a shout out to Jeremy Hamling from the Quartering, because he's the one that kind of tipped me off to this one. So I went and took a look at it, and I was like, yeah, this needs to be talked about. A transgender teacher has been removed from a school after allegedly threatening to shoot some students days after seeing their social media posts discussing their sexual orientation. A teacher from Florida who uses she/her pronouns has been removed from a classroom in the Hernando School District, and police have seized 3 firearms and ammunition from their home. The Fox Chapel Middle School teacher is allegedly transgender and recently learned of a social media post discussing their sexual orientation negatively. Oh my goodness. So let me get this straight. Yeah, Robert, there might be some culpability from the feds on this whole Nashville shooting thing. Absolutely. So let me get this straight. You have a teacher who apparently, as I'm understanding from reading the first few paragraphs of the article, is male, has decided to come out or be transgender, however you want to define that word, or however you want to define that process. And some students in a middle school, being students in a middle school, decide to make some comments about it on social media. The teacher sees it and starts threatening the students. So much for love and tolerance. So much for inclusivity. But I digress. Yeah, there's violence going on here, folks. Like I said, it's kind of past the point of activism in the streets, marching in parades, getting behind a microphone or a bullhorn. Yeah, we got violence. And it's getting bad. It's really getting bad. Very frightening. So yeah, that's what's going on. Latest updates coming out of the Nashville school shooting. And, God, there's a whole bunch of events around all that. Tennessee legislature has been a lot of fun. We might get into that sometime down the road, either in a video or on a live stream. But yeah, there's some really fascinating events coming out of all this. So anyway, that's where we be. Not quite to the top of the next hour yet, but, we kind of pause for a second because even I have to make sure the old throat is still working okay. If you're out there on Rumble, if you're out there on YouTube, make it a point, drop a comment, say hello to each other. I know you 12 people are out there on Rumble, daggone, 13 people out there on Rumble, daggone you. I know. Maybe you want to be polite and not say anything. That's cool. But I encourage you, please, there's a chat box. Please feel free to say hello to each other. Say hello to me. I know you're watching. Hi, I'm Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. There, I took the first step. Come on now. Meet me halfway here. I'd like to see this be a nice, fun community of people reading the news, watching the news, laughing about the news. Hopefully not crying about it, but, it's a whole other thing. No, Charlie, you're fine. Don't get me wrong. And it might be that you are at work. Hang on, I want to put this comment up here. So... Sorry, fellas, I would have more input, but I work. Charlie, you're cool. And the same thing for you folks out there on Rumble. If you happen to be at work watching this and you can't comment, I get it. But if you feel like doing it, drop a line. We'd love to hear from you. So yeah. But anyway, that's what's going on there. Or as the great American philosopher Forrest Gump once said, that's what I'm going to say about that. So, what else is going on in the world? Oh. This kind of this whole thing, excuse me, in Nashville kind of weaves into our next topic. And I had done a video about this earlier in the week. So this is going to be fun. Many of you, or let's put it this way. A lot of you have probably heard of the lady named Riley Gaines. And I'm going to go ahead and put this up on the screen to kind of set up what's coming next. Riley Gaines, for those of you who do not know, is a former swimmer at the University of Kentucky who last year competed in the NCAA championships in the 500-meter freestyle. She has busted her butt to be one of the best athletes in her sport coming or going. And when you get to the point that you compete in an NCAA championship, considering the talent that you're going up against from all around the country, universities all over America, yeah, you're pretty good at what you do. Riley did not win the 500-meter freestyle championship. As a matter of fact, lost to someone named Leah Thomas. Is that? Oh, wait, Leah Thomas, the transgendered swimmer who was a male and has decided to be transgender and compete against biological females. Well, Riley Gaines, aside from being known for the person who lost to Leah Thomas, has taken up the mantle of speaking out on this issue of transgendered athletes competing in female sports. And if the name rings a bell even beyond my talking about it, recently Riley Gaines was out at San Francisco State University, and I'm going to play you a clip of what happened after she finished her speech. Now keep in mind, she was out at a California state institution. Watch this. Yeah, so much for civilized debate. What you're seeing is the aftermath of what happened when Riley Gaines finished her speech. That poor young lady was harassed so badly, she basically had to barricade herself in a bathroom for the next 3 hours. Basically, what was happening was the transgender activists who were out at San Francisco State University had her barricaded in a bathroom and were basically ransoming her for money. You heard me. They were trying to extract money out of that young lady for her release. Like a bunch of pirates. Now, fortunately, the situation de-escalated. She was able to leave, etc. And there's a whole... And then on top of that, you got San Francisco State University out there saying, "Oh, we're very sorry to our students. We didn't mean to inflict emotional pain on you." The hell's the matter with you? First of all, it's called free speech, and the university is supposed to be a place where free speech takes place. You may not agree with everybody's ideas, but you should be allowed to say them. That's the whole point of the academy, but I digress. Now, that sets up an article that came out earlier this week from the UK Daily Mail, and I'll put it back up on the screen. Riley Gaines says feminist Megan Rapinoe and Billie Jean King are, quote, actively fighting for women to lose, as she condemns their hypocrisy for supporting inclusion of transgendered athletes in women's sports. And we read a little further into this article. Oops. Hang on. Okay. Told you. Boomer tendencies. Riley Gaines has doubled down in her criticism of Megan Rapinoe, suggesting both she and Billie Jean King are actively now fighting for women to lose their opportunities by supporting their participation of biological men and women's sports. Gaines, a former University of Kentucky swimmer, was attacked by trans activists last week, said Tuesday Rapinoe was a faux feminist and would shiv a male trying to usurp her position on a team. We'll get to that point here in just a second. Hang on to that. While Gaines did not experience this exact situation, she had to compete against a transgendered woman, formerly the University of Pennsylvania's men's swimmer William Thomas, now known as Leah Thomas, who won the NCAA swimming title in 2022. Gaines hit out at both Rapinoe and King for being hypocrites, claiming they were fighting for women to lose. Quote, the feminist who you would think would say something like Megan Rapinoe and Billie Jean King, who was a trailblazer for Title IX and for women to have their opportunity to play at that level, I can tell you what they're saying. Gaines told Dan Dockich on the Don't At Me show regarding trans women in sports. They're both actively now fighting for women to lose those opportunities, and it's exactly as you just mentioned. It doesn't make sense. The double standard, the hypocrisy of it all. Now, what she's getting at is recently there was a bill introduced in the United States House of Representatives that would basically say, no, if you're a biological woman, you can compete against other biological women. If you're a man, you compete against men. But if you're transgendered, you cannot compete in women's sports. Megan Rapinoe, Billie Jean King, and other feminist leaders have sent a letter to the Biden administration asking them to amend Title IX to include transgenders under the protection, basically nullifying what's trying to be put in place through the bill that's introduced in the House. Now, I've got some takes on all this. Like I said, I recorded a video earlier in this week. And here's sort of where I come down on this. Okay, I think Riley Gaines is absolutely right. Number one, transgenders should not be competing against biological females. Now, before everybody out there starts saying, oh, you're against transgender. Look, I love everybody. Do I agree with everybody? Do I agree with their decisions? No, I don't. But if transgender people want to compete in sports, fine. Compete against other transgenders. Okay? That, to me, makes more sense. But to say that biological males who are competing against female athletes and have the advantage of more strength of muscle, more height, more speed, and everything else, and somehow call that fair, makes absolutely no sense to me at all. None. As a matter of fact, Martina Navratilova, the legendary tennis star, has come up with a pretty good compromise. Okay, fine. You have the male division, you have the female division, and you have a division that you call other. And if transgenders want to compete, they can compete in that division that's called other. And Martina Navratilova is saying the same thing. Once a male passes puberty, you can't unwind that clock. The strength of muscle, the hormones, everything else. And somehow they're going to say, oh, we're identifying as transgender, therefore we should be able to compete in women's sports. How are women going to be able to have their best shot at competing and succeeding personally and even financially if this is going to be allowed? And that also gets to another question. What's the point of having male and female divisions of competition? You're just going to you're going to absolutely break down the barrier and the boundary, which maybe that's what they want. Food for thought. So, and another thing, and this gets to something else, and Riley has brought this up brilliantly. She talks about Megan Rapinoe, but she also mentions Billie Jean King. Now, with all due respect to Billie Jean King, for those of you who are maybe younger and you're watching this live stream, Billie Jean King is a legend in women's tennis. From the late 60s up until maybe the early 1980s, Billie Jean King was one of the best players in the game. Absolutely fantastic tennis player. Now, match Billie Jean King in her prime against the Williams sisters in their prime. No, it's no competition. The Williams sisters would absolutely blow Billie Jean King off the court. I can make an argument that the Williams sisters could blow Martina Navratilova, Chris Everett, Steffi Graf, other legendary female tennis players right off the court. So there's a difference in competition, an era of competition. But aside from being one of the best tennis players in the world in her day, Billie Jean King was known as a very outspoken leader wanting equality for women in sports. Sometimes it was to her personal detriment. But she took her stand. She's a legend. You know, I don't dispute any of that. But I don't see how feminist leaders like Billie Jean King or Megan Rapinoe and others can somehow justify their position. Okay, and here's what I'm getting at. On the one hand, you want women to be equal to men. You want them to be paid the same. You want all the same perks and privileges that men get. You want that for women. Okay, fine. We can debate that the blessed day long. I get it. But I don't see how on the one hand you're going to say that, and then on the other hand, allow for transgendered individuals to compete in women's sports, and thereby knock your sisters out of the opportunity to grow and advance themselves in their sport, grow and advance themselves financially, grow and, forward their own positions in all kinds of different ways. Seems to me those two positions are sort of at odds with each other. Equality for women, equality for transgenders, and there goes the equality for women. You see my point? I don't see how I don't see how Megan Rapinoe and Billie Jean King and others are going to make that work. It seems to me, and I think it's perfectly legitimate to call it what it is. I think it's hypocrisy. And you know what? To go back to something that Riley Gaines said, I absolutely agree with this. Don't you think that Megan Rapinoe wouldn't put a shiv into somebody who was going to take her spot on a soccer team? And that's a question that I asked in my video. If it got down to 2 spots being open on the U.S. women's national team, okay, and you had 2 biological female soccer players competing against a transgendered soccer player for these 2 spots. There's three players, 2 spots open. If the transgendered soccer player beat out a biological female, what would Megan Rapinoe say about that? Yeah, I'll ask the question again. If there were 2 slots open on the U.S. women's national soccer team, the one that competes for the World Cup, and you had 3 different soccer players, 2 of them biological females and 1 of them transgendered. If the transgendered player beat out a biological female for one of those 2 spots, would Megan Rapinoe be able to live with that? Or I'll take it one step further. I'll absolutely take this one step further. Let's go back to that analogy I just said. Let's say that Megan Rapinoe is one of the 2 biological females, and it's a chance to compete for the World Cup one more time. And it comes down to Megan Rapinoe, another biological female soccer player, and a transgendered soccer player. If the transgendered soccer player wound up beating Megan Rapinoe out of that last slot, would Megan Rapinoe be able to stand on her principles and say, yep, I'm perfectly fine with it. I'm glad that the transgendered athlete who's bigger, who is stronger, who's faster than I am, is able to compete with other biological females. Bull. There's no way. I'm not buying it. I don't care what anybody says. Ain't no way in the infernal regions of hell that Megan Rapinoe is going to let that go. Trust me, she's got a big mouth anyway, and she will open it up and yell about this subject. I was unfair. It was unfair. Well, why is it unfair? You said you wanted transgendered athletes competing against other females. You got no problem with it. Or is it that you have a problem with it when they're competing against you? And see, this is where I think that Megan Rapinoe, Billie Jean King, and other, quote, female leaders in the sports movement are absolutely making a mistake. I really do. You know, in the name of being, popular, you are sacrificing principle, or at least your principles anyway. So yeah, I think this is a very, very interesting thing that we're getting into here. So, it kind of came up this week. I thought it was interesting. And this is not going away, anytime soon. The whole issue of transgenderism in America. I mean, we're dealing with this more and more all the time. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on the subject of sports either. We're dealing with it in a lot of different ways. And, I think that those on the right, and I will count myself in this, we're going to have to find a way to put voice to the reservations that we have and speak out about this, because otherwise we're tearing at the fabric, not just of the American culture, but I will argue the West. We got to get a handle on this thing. So yeah, this is something that absolutely needs to be talked about. And again, to quote that great American philosopher, Forrest Gump, that's what I got to say about that. So, we're about ready to switch topics here. Glad to have you all here for Front Porch Brunch this Saturday morning. It's about, what am I looking at here? 11:35. Yeah, 11:35 a.m. Eastern. We're glad you're here. Always glad to see you. For those who are here, those who've chatted so far, Redway 46, Charlie, Robert, glad to hear you all here. I know there's other people watching, and that's cool. We're glad to have you. Thank you for stopping by the Electronic Front Porch. Always glad to have you. We enjoy you being here. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. We're just talking about topics that have gone on in the previous week. Some of them cultural, some political. Right now we're dealing more with the cultural questions. I've been doing now social media in earnest for about a month and a half, so everybody's still getting to know me. And as these live streams go by, there'll be little bits about my past and personality that'll come through. So, I'm glad to meet all of you out there in internet land. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for stopping by this brunch on our front porch. So, tickled to death. Glad you're here. Oh, wow, look at this. We're up to 15 people on Rumble now. Yay! Hey, you Rumblies or Rumblers, we're glad to have you. Welcome. Thanks for sticking around. Tell you what, if you got friends out there right now that aren't really doing anything on a Saturday morning, they want something to, kind of put buzzing in their ear, shoot them a link. Shoot them a link and tell them we're here. Same thing for, Charlie, if you can do it. I know you're at work right now, but that's okay. If you can't, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. But if you got friends out there that you think would really enjoy this, shoot them out a link and say, hey, pop in for this. This is going to be funny. So, yeah, let's see if we can bump up the numbers of people that are here. I want to see this live stream, be consistent and grow as far as the number of people watching. We're glad to have everyone who is here on both sides so far. And by the way, you might want to tell your friends that we are also streaming on Twitter, assuming that I didn't boomer that. But yeah, we are streaming on Twitter as well right now. So we'll give you 3 different options for how you can watch this crazy live stream that I'm on right now. So, but we're glad to have you. Let's get into our next topic, as opposed to me just droning on about how happy I am that everybody's here. Okay. I'll call this little segment "The Wind Beneath My Bluebird Wings." Okay, Twitter. Oh, God. Now, I will say some things up front. Okay, I jokingly call myself a Gen Xer with boomer tendencies. Okay, I will use technology. I'm not wedded to it. Um, and you use social media platforms for all kinds of different purposes. So don't get me wrong. And there are some people that, because of the age they are and the times that they grew up in, they are exceptionally proficient at using social media. For example, I am familiar with a couple of different individuals. Brittany Venti. Brittany Venti is close to half my age. Um, and by the way, a very, very interesting young lady. Follow her on YouTube, follow her on Rumble, follow her on Twitter. Um, she's got some really good takes on things. You may not agree with her on everything, but that's fine. But I'll give her a shout out every chance I get. She is bright, very articulate, and just a joy to watch. She's feisty as can be. But she uses Twitter as part of her ability to promote her other social media channels. Okay. Chrissy Mayer's the same way, the comedian out of New York City. Another person, if you're not following, give him a shout. But yes, Twitter. Now, recently, I don't know if you've heard about this, but it's under new ownership. There's this guy named Elon Musk. Yeah. So Elon's been making some changes to Twitter, and one of them is, very recently, just this week, he took away the blue check mark for certifying that you are the person who's actually doing the tweeting. Now, this has rankled many different people. And not only did he take it away, he's now charging a fee for you to have the blue check mark. Now, the fee is, all things considered, okay, the fee is not that much. I think it's like $8 a month or something like that, or 11. They may have raised it to 11 is what I've heard. But the fee is not that much in the grand scheme of things. Now, the times being what they are, no one needs an extra expense, and I get that. But the people complaining the most about this right now, it's just cracking me up. Now, so I'm going to set that all as the setup, and here's the headline. Take a look at this out of Breitbart. Hang on, I'm going to take a quick sip. From Breitbart, Bette Midler melts down after Twitter removes her blue check, calls Elon Musk a, quote, pathetic douche. I'll give Bette Midler this. She's never lacked for creativity in terms of how to insult someone. And reading from the article thereof, Bette Midler is furious with Twitter, has taken away her blue checkmark verification badge, and has chosen to express her fury on Twitter. In a series of angry tweets posted Thursday, Bette Midler called Elon Musk, quote, a pathetic douche and a worm. She also made fun of SpaceX's rocket launch on Thursday that saw the rocket explode after liftoff. Her indignation comes after Twitter stripped numerous celebrities, media personalities, and news outlets of their blue check verifications. This week, after they failed to subscribe to Twitter Blue, which costs at least $8 a month to maintain their blue check. Quote, Elon took away my blue check. I'm unverified. After all these years and thousands of tweets and free content, this worm has the nerve to decertify me, Midler whined. Other celebrities to lose their Twitter blue check include Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce, Justin Bieber, and Jennifer Lopez. Even former President Donald Trump, who Musk has reinstated, lost his verification. Midler apparently wasn't among the handful of celebrities with whom Musk has reportedly paid their Twitter fee to keep their blue check cert, which includes Stephen King, LeBron James, and William Shatner. Now, lest you think that poor old Bet is alone in all of this, take a look. Alyssa Milano leads Hollywood whining over removal of Twitter blue check marks over fear she'll be impersonated as Bette Midler brands Elon Musk as a worm. Now, a few thoughts on this, as you might expect. A moment, please. Okay. I've got a message for Bette Midler. Not that I think you're ever going to hear it, but, whatever. Lady, just who do you think you are? I'm sorry. I don't even use the blue check mark on Twitter, okay? Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. But who do you think you are? Really? Number one, if anybody could afford $8 to $11 per month, God knows it's you. You've made your money, okay? So it's not like $8 to $11 is going to bust you up or kill your monthly budget, number one. Number two, look, just because you're in Hollywood or you have a take on something somehow means that you are entitled? Really? I mean, don't get me wrong. I know this attitude is pervasive throughout Hollywood, and I understand that. I'm a movie star, and when I say something, people should listen. No, they shouldn't. They should take your comment with the appropriate skepticism they would treat any other person making the same comment. They should check it to find out if it's true, and then they should render a take on it. And if you don't happen to like their take after they've reviewed your comment, tough. This is America. We've still got freedom of speech, for now. But honestly, the childish entitlement attitude of Hollywood stars is just mind-boggling to me. He took away my blue check mark. I'm not wearing that anymore. Oh, shut up! Get over yourself. Gary Beekler, a.k.a. Nerdrotic, calls them adult pretenders. And boy, he's not wrong. They get paid really good money to play a role and pretend to be something or someone else that they are not. And that because of that, they think that they're so much better than everyone else that they should not have to pay money to have their tweets and their Twitter account verified. I have a message for all you people out in Hollywood that are so high on yourselves. Get the hell over it. Welcome to being just like everybody else in the Twitterverse. Okay? Just because you're some Hollywood actor or actress or activist or whatever you are or purport to be, you're no better than me. You're no better than anybody else watching this live stream. You're no better than anybody else on the internet. You're no better than any other American citizen. You're no better than anybody else in the world. You just happen to have a job that gives you more visibility than most people will ever have in their lifetimes. Your opinions are your own. You are entitled to them if you want to have them. But just because you're in Hollywood or you happen to be part of some occupation with high visibility does not mean that you are entitled to be treated any differently than anybody else. So shut up, break out your credit card, break out your debit card, pay the fee, and get over yourselves. I mean, like I said, this sense of Hollywood entitlement's been going on for years, and I get it. But it just blows my mind. The owner of a company whose service that you are utilizing, by the way, because if you get right down to it, there's a lot of ways to describe or define Twitter, but it is a service being provided to individuals and groups so that they can have a platform to communicate on. Okay? Elon Musk is providing a service. He has made the decision to charge a fee for certain aspects of utilizing his service. You're under no requirement to use, Bette Midler, you're under no requirement to use Twitter, by the way. As a matter of fact, I think I speak safely for many other people across America. We'd be very happy if you didn't. Take it a step further, we'd really be happy if you'd shut up. God, we've been listening to you for so many years go on about things that no one agrees with you on. I think we'd be just as happy if you didn't tweet a single thing. But that said, Elon Musk owns Twitter. It is a service that his company is providing to individuals and companies. He's made the decision that he wants to charge a fee for a certain aspect of the service that is Twitter. And because you've enjoyed a free ride up until now with regard to one aspect of that service, you're whining. Yes, whining. Whinging, if you want to use the old term for it. You're whinging about $8 to $11 a month to enjoy the same service you've had before. My response to you is what I would say to anybody else. If it's bugging you that badly, cancel your Twitter account. But you won't do it. And you want to know why you won't do it? In part because in its own almost warped kind of way, your presence on Twitter still gives you validity. Why does an old lion roar? To remind himself that he still can. Or maybe it's better to say, why does an old lion roar? So that he can still hear himself. But if it's bugging you that badly, leave Twitter. Same thing for all the rest of you complaining about it. But you won't. You won't do it. So, my thought in the matter is, pay the fee or shut up. Pay the fee or get off the platform. And I would say that to anybody. I wouldn't care if you're in Hollywood or anywhere else. If that service is something that you want to utilize as part of being on Twitter, okay, you got a decision to make. You either pay the fee or you don't. You don't pay the fee, you don't utilize the service. Doesn't matter if you're a gas station attendant in Anaheim, California, or if you're a Hollywood movie star, or anywhere in between for that matter. It's that simple. Just, please, Bet, get over yourself. Really. Get over yourself. Absolutely ridiculous. See, yeah, I found that yesterday. I was like, yeah, we need to talk about this. Absolutely need to talk about this. What hour of the morning is it? Oh my gosh, it's 10 minutes to 12. Woo! Well, for those of you who are out there watching on Rumble or on YouTube right now, thank you so much for being here. I genuinely appreciate it. Now I feel like a preacher in an old Southern church. Children, I've seen the clock, and children, I've got to hurry. I know I'm not going to be able to get through all these topics, but for all of you here, I'm glad you're here. Watching on Rumble, watching on YouTube. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. We're glad to have you. Yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching as long as you have. You guys have been absolutely awesome. And bottom of my heart, thank you for being on this live stream with me. I'm going to do my best to keep doing these as time goes by on Saturdays. I think it's a good time of the week to kind of just get together and hang out. Maybe you're working around the house, you're throwing in some laundry, maybe you're fixing brunch for yourself. I don't know. You want something to listen to, kind of catch up on the news. That's why we're here. We're trying to provide a service, and glad to have you. Glad to have you. Which, by the way, we are not monetized on YouTube, but I believe we are on Rumble. Now, no obligation here, okay? But if you want to throw some coin in the cup by way of a Rumble rant, you will not hurt my feelings. But please do not do anything that puts you in a bad position. But if you're enjoying what we're doing here, to hear the clink of some coin in the cup is not going to hurt my feelings either. So there you go. All right. Let's shift gears and get into a topic that is somewhat political. And there's been all kinds of things going on this week. And something broke late yesterday, and I'm sitting here just amazed at this. I can't believe he did it. And I give him this. Guy's got cojones. I started hearing about this yesterday on different radio talk shows, and I really couldn't believe it. But I'm going to put this up here because this is just too good. This is too good. Now, everybody knows Donald Trump is running to regain the presidency of the United States in 2024. The main competitor at this point, if he chooses to get into this race, and he has not officially done it yet, the main competitor is Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. Now, there is something of a rift between these two, and that is back in 2018, when Ron DeSantis was first running for governor, he was way behind in the polls. He came and sought Donald Trump's endorsement. Trump gave it to him. That endorsement turned around DeSantis' campaign. He won the Republican primary going away on the strength of Trump's endorsement. There's just no doubt about that. And he went on to beat Andrew Gillum by about 3 points in 2018. So DeSantis goes through his first term. He's a good solid governor. Might not agree with everything he did, but okay, fine. Rolling into 2022, DeSantis wins re-election big. He beats Charlie Crist like a rented government mule. And then all of a sudden whispers start coming out that DeSantis is thinking about challenging Trump. Now, there have been people, and I will not mention any names, who were thinking that DeSantis would stay out of it on the grounds that if Trump got the nomination, Trump might offer DeSantis the vice president slot. And it would be an interesting ticket. And it may yet still happen, by the way. It may still yet happen. We don't know. I do wonder about certain foreign policy positions that Ron DeSantis has, which we can always get into in another live stream. But Trump not being happy about the idea that the man that he basically helped win the governor's mansion back in 2018 is about to betray him, politically speaking, has been on DeSantis' case the whole time. Now, that sets up what happened yesterday. I'm going to read a headline to you. Let me find it here real fast. Whoops. Where'd it go? Ah, there we are. This is from the Miami Herald Tribune. Trump team says DeSantis, Florida, among the worst states to work, retire, or raise a family. Let me read that headline again. Trump team says DeSantis' Florida among the worst states to work, retire, or raise a family. We get into this article. Florida is quote, among the worst states to raise a family, work, or retire. Former President Donald Trump's campaign claims in a blistering rebuttal to the story Ron DeSantis tells about the state thriving under his leadership. Quote, the real DeSantis record is one of misery and despair, Trump spokesman Stephen Chung said in a campaign email Friday. He has left a wake of destruction of all across Florida, and people are hurting because he spent more time playing public relations games instead of actually doing the hard work needed to improve the lives of people he represents. Trump's campaign argues Florida is faring poorly on a range of issues, citing various sources such as Oxfam, Money Inc., U.S. News & World Report, and the Florida Policy Institute. The state's affordability crisis is highlighted in the campaign email, along with how low teacher pay, a lack of elder abuse protections, and low economic opportunity. Quote, under Ron DeSantis, Florida has become among the worst states to live, find economic opportunity, work, retire, raise a family, pay taxes, be safe, rent a home, have a baby, afford energy, die, be a teacher, be a doctor, be a police officer, Trump's campaign email states. That message not only goes against what DeSantis has been saying about Florida as a model for the nation, but much of what Republican leaders have said over the past 25 years of political dominance in state politics. It also echoes much of what Democrats have said in criticizing DeSantis' policies and those of GOP lawmakers. Now, give Donald Trump a lot of credit. You have to have You have to have some serious stones to be able to do what Trump just did in that article. It's just absolutely amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. And what I'm getting at is this. Trump, let me back it up a second. Leaders in and out of Florida have touted Florida, particularly since the pandemic, as being a place where freedom could flourish. And where freedom flourishes, so does opportunities, economic, personal, etc. And now you've got Donald Trump, who at one time was praising Ron DeSantis right all over the place. Now coming out saying Florida is a crap hole of a place to live. You gotta love Trump. I mean, the intellectual and linguistic jujitsu that you have got to do to make that kind of argument work, you have to have the linguistic and intellectual flexibility of a Gumby to make that all stick. But Trump's doing it. His campaign is literally out there saying Florida is a bad place to live. I never saw this one coming. I mean, I've seen Donald Trump attack Ron DeSantis in recent weeks and months for a lot of different reasons, but I never thought he'd actually look at the people of Florida and say, you realize the place you're living is a crap hole? And then the kicker to it. Last night, Donald Trump gives a speech at the Lee County Republican dinner, which is in Florida, after these comments broke. Unbelievable, this guy. Absolutely amazing. But I just, is it going to be something that lasts a long time? I doubt it. By the time we get to, the debates, the Republican primaries, this story is not going to last long. But it struck me funny. I was like, because I kept hearing about this yesterday. I was like, really? Donald Trump is saying that Florida, the state he lives in, by the way, he's sitting there saying that Florida sucks? Unbelievable. But it's Trump. Now, Trump has been known, and I'm not defending him, by the way. I'm really not. I'm just reporting this news and just making my comments on it. Trump has been known over the years to do something like this and absolutely springboard back and basically leave his opponents out there exposed. In other words, he makes a crazy statement. His opponents are attracted to it like moths to the flame. So they get out there where they think the flame is at. He jumps backwards, and now they're out there all by themselves exposed. Is he doing that here? I have no idea. I think personally it's very hard to make the case he's trying to make. But okay, he's out there attacking DeSantis. And sometimes when Trump does something, you scratch your head and go, I don't get it. But someone did say of him, from back in his days in the business world, that Trump was a genius at finding his opponent's weakness and exploiting it to his advantage. Now, do I know Ron DeSantis? Who knows any individual? I do think DeSantis has a streak of ambition, which, okay, I don't necessarily fault him for having that. I think everybody ought to be ambitious in one form or another. But I wonder if he doesn't also have a streak of pride. And I'm wondering if, and this is just speculation, this is just me spitballing, okay? We're sitting on the front porch. Let's talk about this. I just wonder if Trump is not goading DeSantis into saying something about this. I really am. And in doing so, is Trump just going to take DeSantis' rebuttal and smack him even harder with it? I could be absolutely wrong here. Okay? Absolutely wrong. But we'll see. But I just thought that comment was just fascinating. I was like, You gotta be kidding me. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So there's that. Oh, which, by the way, one other thought about this whole Trump versus DeSantis thing. There has been a lot made in recent days and weeks that the DeSantis campaign for president is faltering. And I've seen a criticism, and I may get into this next week. Time won't allow me to do it right now. But I am seeing a criticism from mainstream Republicans about DeSantis. Remember, these are the people that would love to see him challenge Donald Trump. I'm seeing a criticism of him that he's spending too much time talking about Disney and not talking about his record, his ideas, the things that he wants to do for the country, similar to what he's done in Florida. Now, I will say this about that. I think that this is a knee-jerk reaction of establishment Republicans that they would much rather talk about anything other than cultural issues. Okay? I will give them this. I don't know, laying aside the knee-jerky reaction, I don't know that they're wrong. And because of what DeSantis is doing, or how he's been doing it, it's causing any kind of a campaign that he wants to run for president to suffer. So, we'll see. I mean, we'll see where this goes. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I just saw the viewer count over there on Rumble. We're up to almost 30 people. How you doing? Hi, my name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome to Front Porch Brunch on this fine Saturday morning. We're glad you're here. We're about to switch topics, So, hey, if you're out there, please drop a comment and chat. I'd like to know who you are. We're going to be doing these live streams every Saturday morning from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We're glad you're here. If you want to, drop a comment and chat. Let me know who you are. I'd like to see this little community be built up to something nice and cool. Let us know who you are. We're glad you're here. I'm from the South, even though most people don't consider West Virginia to be the South. I am from the South. I consider it to be the South, and since I'm the one that's being considered here, I will say where I'm from and make it stick. So, oh my goodness, we just cracked 30. Woohoo! Glad to have you. We're going to be doing these live streams every Saturday morning from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., barring something that might come up. But yeah, if you got friends that you think would enjoy this, tell them to stop by on Saturday mornings. I'll take all the help I can get, spread the word around. So glad you're here. We're live streaming also on YouTube, and we're also out on Twitter. So if you're not a subscriber to the channel, please do so. Would love to have you be a part of the Front Porch community. We're just sitting around talking about the news, drinking our favorite beverage. As old Southerners are fond of saying, we're just telling lies and seeing we can't solve all the world's problems. So we're glad to have you. So got a little bit of time left, which is going to afford me the opportunity to get into one, maybe two more topics. And this one I think is fascinating. So let's get into it. I think y'all have heard about the fact that there is now a new declared candidate for president on the Democrat side, and that is Robert Kennedy Jr. Now, people have been asking me, what do I think about RFK Jr. and what do I think his chances are? So let me pull this up real quick. Let's take a look at it. I did two videos now. One was very early on in the days of this channel, and one was a more recent update in light of Kennedy's announcement this week that he's running for president. And I'll say any of the following. I think in the end, Joe Biden could wind up still being the Democratic Party's nominee for president. As a matter of fact, I think he will. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. Number one, he is the incumbent. And even though he is very weak, yes, he's weak. I don't care what the mainstream media tries to tell you. He is weak. he is still the incumbent president of the United States. There are enormous advantages that go along with incumbency. So I think that yes, Biden will still be the nominee for the Democratic Party. I do think, however, that Robert Kennedy's entrance into this race is going to expose just how weak a candidate that he is. Hey, Charlie, we're glad you're still here, brother. Don't worry, you're cool. You do what you got to do. You do what you got to do. We love you. We're glad. And take care of people. Do what you got to do. If you're operating a major water plant, yeah, brother, by all means, pay more attention to that than the crazy man with the fedora, okay? But thank you for letting me know you're still listening. I genuinely appreciate it. I think that Robert Kennedy Jr.'s entrance into this race is going to expose just how weak Joe Biden is. And I'll tell you why. There have been polls that have come out yeah, I know, Biden. Yeah, Charlie's got an absolutely fabulous point. Lord help us. Lord help us indeed. But Biden has never been universally loved inside the Democratic Party. Okay? I mean, I've said this before, and I will say it again. It doesn't matter what campaign you're talking about, Joe Biden has never been liked by Democrats. He's been around forever. They just don't want him. They don't like him for various reasons. And if it hadn't been for, Jim Clyburn's endorsement in South Carolina and Barack Obama clearing the field, Joe Biden never would have been the nominee for the Democratic Party. Odds are it would have gone to Bernie Sanders or maybe somebody else. But then again, Bernie didn't help himself in 2020 when those old comments about the joys of living in a communist country came up. He more or less shot himself in the foot. But anyway, getting back to Robert Kennedy Jr., I think his entrance into the race is fascinating because people keep asking the question, well, where does he stand on the issues? Now, the left-wing media is going to try to say, well, he's anti-vax. No, Robert Kennedy's never been purely anti-vaccination. He has certain qualms about a current jab that is being encouraged for people to take part in. He's never been anti-vaccination. He just has certain problems with the way that the federal government, approves, monitors, regulates these sort of things. He's not anti-vaccination. But his campaign, that's what they're going to portray him as. What do I think? Where is Robert Kennedy on the issues? Well, he wants to end foreign wars. He wants to bring our troops home as much as possible. He wants to utilize our own resources to take care of our own people. He wants to end the collusion between big tech and government. He wants to end the collusion between big business and government. If this were the Democratic Party of 30 or 40 years ago, and there were not an incumbent president, Robert Kennedy Jr. would stand a real good chance getting the nomination. But the irony of it is, in spite of that very famous last name that he has, in spite of the fact that his father was a U.S. Senator and an Attorney General, in spite of the fact that his Uncle John was a sitting president of the United States, in spite of the fact that his other uncle, Ted, was a longtime senator from Massachusetts, he's a pariah in the Democratic Party because of his beliefs. You take Robert Kennedy's positions on the issues and you match them against the Democratic Party, he's out of step with his own party. Now, the funny part about that is he might be out of step with certain members of his own party, but you go down the line on the issues, he's not out of step with a lot of people in this country. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, he represents a populist wing of his own party that right now isn't really able to make that much hay. But man, that whatever vote he gets in the primaries against Joe Biden, I got bad news for Biden. That vote's not going anywhere. They're not just going to say, oh, our guy lost, we're not going to vote in the general election. They're going to vote for somebody. And here's the thing. Here's something for you to consider. You take Robert Kennedy Jr.'s positions on the issues and you match them against Donald Trump, they're talking about the same things. Now, I said in my video this week, they may disagree on how to get to the end result of the principles that they want to see enacted. In other words, what kind of legislation, what kind of government policy. RFK Jr. and Trump will disagree on that part of it. But in principle, they agree on an awful lot, which just sort of begs the question. Excuse me. Begs a very interesting question. If RFK Jr.'s vote goes somewhere in the general election, where does it go? I'll argue that some of it's going to go to Trump. Like I say, certain Democrat populists may not agree with Trump on a lot of things. They may not like him, but if you go down the line on the issues, if they're voting on just the issues, some of that RFK Jr. vote is going to swing to Donald Trump. And in certain states, it might just be enough to put Donald Trump back in the White House. I'm telling you right now, Biden is an absolutely weak candidate. He really is. RFK Jr. is going to expose just how weak he is. The only thing that could save Biden right now, laying aside the advantages of incumbency, and they are massive, I'm not saying they aren't, is the fact that he has a divided field. But if this comes down to Joe Biden and RFK Jr. on the same stage together, which, by the way, Biden's going to do everything he can to avoid that possibility. He does not want to debate Robert Kennedy Jr. I don't care what his campaign says about, oh, Robert Kennedy Jr. is irrelevant. You know, he's an anti-vaxxer. He's got positions that are not in line with the majority of Democrats. I'm not going to waste my time on him. Let me tell you something. RFK Jr. scares Biden's people to death. They'll never come out and say it, but he does. The reason that the primary schedule for the Democrats right now is set up the way that it is, that South Carolina is first on the list, is to give Joe Biden the advantage of having a perception created for him that his run to the Democratic nomination to seek re-election is inevitable. If this first primary were held in New Hampshire, as it otherwise traditionally would be, Biden would still win, but you would get a real indication of just how much dissatisfaction there is inside the Democratic Party for Joe Biden. I mean, you've got polls out right now that are giving Robert Kennedy Jr. anywhere from 10 to 14%, depending upon whose poll you're looking at. And we've got a lot of time between now and 2024. Robert Kennedy can raise the money. That last name of his and all the connections that he's got in the Democratic Party, and even among some Republicans, by the way, he can raise money. If Robert Kennedy Jr. can get some ground forces together and raise some money for advertising, like I say, I don't know that he'll win any of the primaries against Joe Biden, but he's going to make Joe Biden bleed politically. Don't you think he won't? He'll absolutely do it. So I think it's fascinating. I really do. This is going to be interesting to watch. And by the way, I saw one commentator, and I forget who it was now, I think it was Charlie Hurt of the Washington Times, make a very interesting observation. That if Joe Biden and RFK Jr. wind up getting on the same debate stage together, Joe Biden is going to have to defend himself and defend his policy on the war in Ukraine. That will be absolutely worth paying the money to watch. It really will. Because, hey, Charlie Hurt makes this point better than I ever will. Biden owns lock, stock, and barrel everything the United States has done from the beginning of the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, to now. He owns every bit of it. He cannot blame it on Trump. He can't blame it on anybody else. Because for the first year or so of his presidency, there was no war in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine. But Biden kept pushing it. Just kept pushing it. So now we are where we are. We've spent over, about $120 billion giving money and assistance to Ukraine. Let's see Joe Biden defend that on a stage against a virulently anti-war Democrat like Robert Kennedy Jr. Which, by the way, the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree, because if you think back to 1968, for those of you who are old enough to remember this, that was one of the principal planks of Robert Kennedy Sr.'s presidential platform. He wanted to get out of the war in Vietnam in the worst way possible. Unfortunately, he was assassinated. We never found out what would have happened. But yeah, let's see Joe Biden get on stage with Robert Kennedy Jr. and discuss the Ukraine war. I would pay real money to make that happen. I really would. And let's see, where are we at? 12:20? Okay. All right, need to start wrapping this up. Folks, thank you for stopping by the Electronic Front Porch. We've been glad to have you here. For everybody who has watched, is watching now. So yeah, let's we're starting to wrap it up. And for everybody who's been here, thank you so much for stopping by. I genuinely do appreciate it. We've been glad to have you. Do me some favors as we get ready to bring this thing to a conclusion. If you're watching this, be it on Rumble, be it on YouTube, be it on Twitter, if you are not a subscriber to my channels on YouTube or on Rumble, please subscribe. If you have friends of yours that you think would enjoy the content that I put out, spread the word around. You can tell them, hey, I don't know who this idiot is, but he seems like he's a lot of fun. And he seems fairly informative, so check him out. He gives information and news in a cool, sort of chill sort of way. And if you subscribe to the channel, please hit the bell for notifications. At least that's what they do on YouTube. On Rumble, it's a little bit different. But yeah, we'd love to have you. I would love to build this into something absolutely amazing. So if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Do so. Spread the word around. Help a brother out here. I am a one-man band, and I'll take all the help I get. Oh, by the way, speaking of subscribing, I have a challenge for those of you, particularly those of you who are watching on Rumble right now. Number one, go out to my Rumble channel and subscribe. But do me a favor. I am currently at about 175 subscribers on YouTube. I would love to get to 250 by the end of this month. I've got a stretch goal. And if you're watching this on Rumble, after you subscribe on Rumble, do me a favor. Go over to YouTube and subscribe to my channel. It's the Front Porch Conservative. You can't miss it. You'll see me in a very good-looking fedora and a fabulous-looking pair of glasses, looking devilishly handsome and roguishly charming. Great picture of me, by the way. And I say that with all the humility that I can possibly muster, which is not a lot. So, yeah, please subscribe to my channels on Rumble and YouTube. Spread the word around. You guys have been a load of fun. You really have. And I will leave you, as I did last week, with the words of that great American philosopher, but I will modify it. Because I thought about something after I proclaimed those words, is that I was being a little bit non-inclusive. So we're gonna end the live stream with this. Remember the words of that great American philosopher Tom T. Hall when he said, "Son, it's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." Thanks for stopping by the front porch this morning. We'll see you next Saturday. You guys have fun. Have a great week. I love you. See you then.